Welcome back to my channel Coder Vlogs. So in this video we will cover flutter block, which is a state management, and it is very popular and mostly used in Flutter. So block stands for business logic component, and it has three layers: representation layer, handling logic layer, and data layer, which contain REST APIs, data providers, and repository. So block is the central and bridge, which is very important, which has business logic, and it handles the UI events and send back the state of the UI and also communicate with the data. So uh, any changes happen in data will be directly reflect in the block, and block will change the state of the UI, right? So let's talk about the project structure. So if we want to structure our project for the block pattern, and for example I have a weather application, so I will create first four folder, that will be data folder, repository folder, business logic folder, and presentation folder, right? Okay, what is the key concept in the block pattern? So here is the some points. So these are the key concept of the block pattern, right? So for this video I will use block provider and block builder. So you can just note that we will use more of these concept in future videos, right? So in this picture you will see qubit and block. So this is how the block pattern works. In the central, in the bridge, there is a block, and in the first we have UI, and in the last we have data. So block will handle the data and UI state. So basically we have two things here, one is qubit and one is block. So qubit is similar to the block thing, but it is more lighter version of the block. It is same as block, right? And from the diagram you can understand that it send back states, and UI send function or events. Like for the data it send the request, and data send the response back to the qubit, and qubit is responsible for handling everything. So let's implement that in the code. So I have some code example here. Let me demonstrate the empty project with the name of block pattern. So we have default code, and it is showing the template of counter app. So first of all we have to import the library for the flutter block over here. For that we have to open this website and click on the installing, then copy this line of code and paste in the dependency right over here, and then save. So it will automatically import the library in the project, right? Now let's come to the code example in the document. So first of all we have to create a class with the name of counter qubit. I will tell you why and how. So basically what we are doing here, we are using the block pattern in the counter app. So this is the simple example. Counter app is a simple example, and I will implement this counter app using the block pattern, right? For that I have to remove this set state. So set state is update the UI. So I will remove that, and I will use block pattern. And you know that set state is not good thing to use. If you use too much, so it will like utilize so much memory and also leak the memory, which is bad for security. So first of all let's create class over here, counter qubit dot get the counter qubit class. Now write here code class counter qubit, right? So now let's extend this class with the qubit, right? And let's import its library. Okay, this is giving us error because we are extending with the qubit, which is the abstract class, and it needs to implement something. Let's implement. So in our case we are implementing the constructor, and constructor is requiring the initial value, right? But there is one more thing, like in our case we are implementing counter application and it require integer value. So let's make it integer. So now this class is integer specific, right? So it will only accept integer value, nothing else. So in the constructor it will only get the integer value, right? So now let's create one method over here which will just increment its current value, right? So for that we will call emit and stat, right? So emit is basically updating the state or updating everything, like it will update the value, it will update the UI. Okay, what is state? State will return the current value and we want to increase its value by 1. So let's increase, let's write +1. So it will increase the value by 1 and emit will update everything including the UI, right? One more thing, if I change this integer with string, so it will give us the error because now it is string specific, so it will only accept the string value like this. Now you can see here the error is gone, but when I convert back to integer, so it will give us error. So the purpose of this thing is to make it specific to one data type. Okay, now one thing is complete. Now let's come back to main. As we are implementing this counter app with the block pattern, so we don't need this method and we don't need this set state. Set state will update the UI and we want to do that with block pattern. Set state is not good to use because it utilizes so much memory. Let's remove this thing, right? We have one error below in the floating action button. On pressed require method, so let's pass empty method here, and over here we will write some code. I will tell you later, but first of all let's use the block provider. Okay, you will use block provider in the material app. Like block provider is used above the widget, so widget will get the properties of the block provider. Let me show you in the code so you understand. Like suppose I just remove, let me comment this code, then I will use the block provider. So it requires two parameters. One parameter is create and other is the child. So counter qubit, so let's pass its initial value as 0, and it also require one child, and we can set the child as home page, right? Okay, why we are using this? Because it is the main thing, like it will give the property of block in this widget. So in this widget we can use block properties, right? And also with the help of this we can set its initial value, right? So you can use this block provider in this class, not in this class, but for example let's use in the material app class, right? But you can use our here or over the stateless widget. You can use this block provider everywhere, but in my example I'm using in the material app, right? So now let's come to here text. So when the value changes in the counter qubit class, so that changes should be directly reflected in the text widget, right? To do that, we need to use something like block builder or block observer. So we have these two options. So I will use here block builder, right? So whenever the changes happens, so that changes will be directly reflected in the UI, right? So let's use block builder, right? And it will require two parameter, context and state, right? And let's copy this text widget and paste over here, remove the comma, and that's it. Okay, so let's remove this counter and let's write state. As counter qubit is the string specific, so it will return the string, and text widget requires string, so let's convert integer into string. So this integer is converted into string. So with the help of this block builder, any changes happen will be directly reflected in the UI with the help of text widget, right? Okay, floating button. When the floating button is pressed, so it should increase value by 1. So now right here context dot read, and then like set its data type counter qubit, and we are using the method of increment, right? So basically we are using this class counter qubit and we are using its method called increment, and context has this read method because of this block provider is used, and it has child my home page, right? So let's run the application and now let's see it is working or not. So it is not working. So I have error here, and to fix that error I need to pass here some specific value. Like block builder requires some specific class. I'm using counter qubit class and its data type is integer. So when after passing this specific data after the block builder, the error will be removed, right? So let's rerun the project and run. So now it is working fine. If I click on the plus button, so value will be increment as in the counter application. So this is how you can implement simple counter app using the block pattern. In next video we will discover and cover more key concept in block pattern, and this is very simple example, and see you in next video. Bye bye.